So hi, everybody, and welcome to this Let Me Introduce You next in the series. We're going to talk today about indie publishing, and I'm very excited to have you along. What would be wonderful is if you can just go to your questions box and let me know that you can see the screen. You won't see us, but that you can see the screen and that you can hear, because that's really important to me. Oh, great, Nancy. Thank you so much. That's perfect. Got Sarah and Bonnie and all kinds of people. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for letting me know. Great. So what we're going to do today is we'll be together for an hour. We're going to have, if you've been to one of these before, you know how it goes. For about a half an hour, I'm going to interview our guest, and then we're going to have a time for your questions, because I know that's what you're really here for. And we've got people coming in from Hawaii. We've got people, oh, I've got students here. Hello, Sonia. Hello, Jan. Hello to Nancy. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. So we're going to get going, because you guys have, your time is precious. And this may be your first experience, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Marion Roach Smith, and I'm the creator of the Memoir Project and a teacher of memoir and a coach of memoir, the author of 4 books. And I love running this series because this really allows you to meet people. And today I want you to meet Karen McNally Upson. She's the sales director of Girl Friday Productions. And on her LinkedIn page, it says she's passionate about helping authors achieve their goals. And she's an experienced manager of editorial and design services for end-to-end book production, printing, and distribution, with more than 20 years of project and content management experience driving cross-departmental projects with large revenue and customer-facing impact. What that means is she's here for you. She's totally here for us. Right? We got some of that industry lingo. So welcome, Karen. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me, Marion. I'm well, and I'm excited to hear from everyone who's joining us today. I love talking to authors, and one of the reasons why I started working at Girl Friday was because I wanted to work closely with authors, and I love it. So let's get started.
Yeah, I get that too. I love working with authors. It's the most interesting conversation I get to have every day, and I have lots of them. And when I left the New York Times years ago and became a freelance writer, but about 9 years ago or 10 years ago, I started this business. And as I say to my family, this way I get to have the conversations I want to have every day, all day long with writers. So that's really wonderful. So I put a little history up on the screen of Girl Friday Productions, the people who started it. And I love that it was founded by working mothers who believe people do their best work when flexibility and balance are provided in abundance and without judgment. You had me at that sentence. And it's a woman-owned, woman-led firm. And there's a really wonderful history here of this. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about when you joined and what you do there, so people can really get some context about Girl Friday, and also explain the name, because it's one of my favorite movies is His Gal Friday, but I'm not sure that's where it came from. So over to you.
Yeah. So it actually did come from the movie. And we decided to take an old idea and turn it on its head, much like in that movie. The main character, the woman, she really does run the show and have the best ideas and is making things happen. So we decided that we wanted to take that and use that as our company name. And the other thing about what we do is we take our work seriously, and then we also have a lot of fun with it. And the clients we work with enjoy having fun while they're doing something that's really hard. This is an endeavor that can be so intense and requires a significant investment. And we want it to be a great experience. We want people to be really happy with what they have as their finished book, the finished product. And we also want them to have fun along the way. So our name is everything about having a great time and doing excellent work.
That's fabulous. And for those who don't know the movie, His Girl Friday is Rosalind Russell, Cary Grant in a remake of the famous front page, the great play, The Front Page, then became a movie. And when Howard Hawks got his hands on the project, he flipped it and made the reporter a woman, Hildy Johnson.
Mhm.
And it's a movie I watch several times a year. We watch it in our family all the time. So I'm just thrilled that you named it for that, because Hildy's one of the greatest characters ever. So good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's fabulous. So you got a bunch of market differentiators, and I saw these on your website. The whole idea, I think, for people is to try to understand that there's a lot of ways to get published these days. And a lot of people still think about the big four in New York, the big four publishing houses.
Mhm.
I've been published by the big four. I have 4 books out. I've been there, Houghton Mifflin, Simon and Schuster, Bloomsbury, and Grand Central. I've had the experience, but I also self-published a book once. And even after that kind of publishing with the best of the best, you might think, I self-published a book that then became the book that I have out on the market for 12 years, called The Memoir Project, which is what started my business. And I self-published it first, and then it went to market. So I went out to auction to one of the big four, which was an interesting thing to have happen. But I loved the self-publishing experience because I had control. I had
Yes.
ownership. I had, for the 4 beautiful experiences I had with the big four, I didn't have control over my cover, my title,
Mhm.
the way it was edited. I didn't have control over my brand. I didn't have control over me, that means. And so
Mhm.
talk to us about, I put these bullet points up on the screen: ownership, balance, diversity, representation, and innovation. And I'll give the link to the website later, but talk to us a little bit about this combination. I don't know if you can see this screen, Karen, but
Yes.
let's walk through these, or to whatever order you'd like to walk through any of them. I think let's start with ownership and how Girl Friday allows for that for the writer.
Sure. Well, our clients are they are the author and they are their own publisher.
Hmm.
And what we are offering is a team of collaborators to bring expertise to the table so that the author can make decisions, educated decisions about every aspect of their project, knowing that their decisions are informed, and they're informed not just by editorial expertise, but marketing expertise. We do a deep dive with every single one of our clients into who their audience is and where they are, what their psychographics and demographics are. And I will tell you, every single time our authors are surprised. They might know, oh yeah, sure, this is my readership, but knowing who their secondary and tertiary audience might be, that is something that is so wonderful to offer to the author, because
Hmm.
then making decisions about cover, about title, about how to position their book in the market is part of they're able to make an educated decision, so they are owning that decision. And we often have authors who say, you know what, I know that my cover, in order to compete, might need to fit within a certain look and feel, but I really do want a pony and a rainbow on my cover, and I'm willing to take the risk of having my cover look different. And we support our authors in that decision, but we also let them know how they may be undermining their goals.
Yeah.
So that's where ownership comes in. It's in making educated decisions based on really good information.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can agree that we've seen an awful lot of self-published books that had covers that just did not encourage me, the reader, to dive in. We know the
Right.
look of them, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
was the one place with the lovely self-publishing firm I went with for the Memoir Project in its first iteration, that I thought the cover was less than I wanted it to be. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
if I had been allowed to have more input here, I guess I would have done something a bit more dynamic. So
Yeah.
ownership is important, and you do this market research before the book comes out, as opposed to once you've got the manuscript. I mean, one of the things you'll find with the big four is late in the process, you meet the person who will be handling your marketing, and you find out that she's got 59 other titles in that one season that she's handling, and that there's not a lot of special treatment. I heard from one of my authors recently that I've worked with, who's now your author, and she has been astonished by the support you have already given her, and she's still in the writing and editing process with you. So I'm really impressed by that. And give us a sense of what, yeah, it's really kind of wonderful. Give us a sense of what you mean by like representation and balance and diversity, whichever one of these you'd like to hit on, because everybody can go to the website and read up on them. But I just love you to walk through whatever aspect of this you want to talk about right now.
Yeah, well, we know that our authors, especially that our memoirists, are bringing their story, their truth to their work. And what is really important about that is also understanding the reader's perspective and what the reading experience is going to be like. And that can often prompt us to ask some questions of the author as they're going through the editorial process and say, well, you know, what does this mean? The reader's going to be wondering, and are there aspects of some of the representation that they may have in their work that requires a deeper dive into cultural sensitivity? So we offer that as a boon to our authors, not as a critique or a criticism, because all of us move through this world in a way that is that's based on our backgrounds, and we want to make sure that we're representing a lot of different ideas and concepts, so that the authors are thinking about these too, so that they're providing a reading experience and a product that is going to resonate with their reader and all readers.
That's great. I mean, it's very unlike the self-publishing experience I had then, where somebody just printed my book. This is a conversation, a heightening, a sensitivity that you're offering as well, which is fascinating. And when you say representation, let's talk a little bit about how you help the author represent themselves in the world. We'll get a bit deeper into this in a minute, but what do you mean by that?
Well, it means that the author is often so close to their story that they don't realize that everything isn't on the page. And so, as we're often the very first reader, there might be beta readers, or there might be support. I mean, obviously your students or your clients that you're working with have you, which is incredible. But not all authors come to us having that level of expertise during those early stages. So we're often the first reader, and there can be pieces of a story that are missing. And we want to make sure that the author is able to hear that and collaborate with us to make sure that everything that they're hoping to achieve in terms of the reading experience and what they want their reader to feel and walk away with is on the page.
Yeah, so important. You know, 99% of the time when I get a first draft, I have to say to the author, I think the story is still in your heart and not yet on the page. And that happens so often for so many of us. So what you're really talking about is an editorial sensitivity that you bring to these. You're not just printing these books. You're reading these books. You're helping these authors along. You're explaining that, you know, the diversity of ideas is important. That representation, the fully representing your story on the page is essential. So it's editing, but it's also content improvement. And
absolutely.
What about, anything else you want to bring to this? The ownership, balance, diversity, representation, and innovation that I found on your website?
Yeah, well, I'd like to touch a little bit on the process in terms of what we do here and how we apply publishing industry best practices. We start with a developmental edit, and in that process, in that developmental edit, we're really pairing our clients with editorial expertise that is in that genre and also within that writing and storytelling style. And what that does is it helps the author really get their story shaped and polished. And like I said earlier, if it's making sure that the author's achieving the goal for their reader. And so we do that first. And then after that, we may do a line edit to really fine tune the language there. And that can be the same as the developmental editor or a separate editor. And then we copy edit. That's really where we're looking at the nuts and bolts of the language and making sure that everything is crystal clear and mechanically sound. And then there's a proofread, and then there's a format proof. And all of those are individuals, separate individuals who are focusing on that area. And so it really does produce a high-end product that the author is going to be so proud of at the end. And if you're going into this endeavor wanting the best possible book, that's the best way to do it. Whether you're working with Girl Friday or any other firm that's out there, you really want that level of support. And all of those editors need to be working together. And this is where the innovation comes in. Our teams are working together and they're collaborating. Every person, every member of the team understands the author's goals and what the book is about. So we don't pitch things over the fence and just let things, take place. There's oversight the entire way. So that's where I think Girl Friday's innovation comes in, and it applies what you might get at a traditional publishing house to an independently published work.
There you go. And that's just it. I mean, it kind of makes me want to lie down on the couch and just breathe out when you say that, because what I've seen so many times, especially with independent publishing, with somebody who says, I've got the gumption, I can do this, I can handle all the aspects of the production and distribution myself. But what they find is that they took it to one editor, and then they go to a different editor at a different online, expertise. And suddenly the first editor and the second editor have total disagreement. Like, I don't believe the arc of this story. So you've got an integrated approach right from the start, which is fantastic. And I love that.
Completely. Yeah. I think one of the worst things an author can experience is having a ground that's already been covered rehashed again. That can be so frustrating. And that's not what we do. We make sure that those editorial decisions that are made early on are carried through to everyone who touches that project.
That's so wonderful. I mean, one of the worst things that can happen, even with the big four, is your editor leaves in the middle of the project, and happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
And your book gets what they call orphaned. And it's happened to so many friends of mine. And that's rough. The other thing I just loved about your information is that you give back into the world. You've got projects that you support with the dollars that you earn. And that's kind of unique. Can you just mention that a little bit?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. So I'd start with one of the projects that I think it's maybe, I can't know if it's on our website or not, but it's something we did a couple of years ago called Recipes for Refuge. And it's from the Refugee Women's Alliance. And we did a cookbook for them. You can find it at your local bookstore, and you can even find it on wherever you buy your books.
And it is on your website.
One place.
Yeah, it's on your website. I saw it there.
Oh, great. Yeah. So this was a project we did completely pro bono, where we produced a cookbook, and it's recipes from around the world, as well as the stories of these women, these families traveling to the United States and bringing their culture and community together into this wonderful cookbook. So we're super proud that we were part of that. And then most recently, we worked with the Tacoma School of Arts and the students there. It's a high school in Tacoma, and they established an anti-racist library, and we were one of the partners that helped to build that library. And boy, these kids are incredible. And we're going to be going down in November. Several of us are going to go down for a Wednesday afternoon to work with the kids and talk about publishing and what it's like and the different jobs in publishing. So these are our future authors. These are future publishers. Maybe I'll work for one of these kids one day. So yeah, so that's something that we did this past spring, and we're really proud that we were able to help build that library with more than 300 books.
That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah.
So how do people know if indie publishing is for them? What do you think is the way to make this decision amid the myriad forms and models these days? We've got the big four, we've got hybrid publishing, we've got independent publishing, and independent publishing has taken on so many different names over the years. We used to call it vanity press. This doesn't resemble that at all. But some people still say, oh, it would be such a failure to me if I had to publish this myself. I do not view it that way.
Yeah.
I view it that there are people for whom each of these models would be the fit. So how does somebody answer the question, is indie publishing for you, do you think, Karen?
Yeah, well, what I like to do is work backwards from what the author is hoping to achieve. What are their goals? And I will say that the most important thing an author can do is do their research about the publishing landscape, starting with how are books purchased? If we look at the data, we know that more than 65% of the books purchased are purchased online. Of that percentage, we know that 85% of those online purchases are happening on Amazon. Those are facts. As much as we love our bookstores, and I love my bookstore, and as much as we love libraries, those are the facts of the matter. And what that means is there are a lot of opportunities for books to be discovered online. And we want to make sure that anytime a book is being discovered, the purchaser, the reader, can get it wherever they choose to buy their book. And our goal for our clients is to make sure that their books are available no matter where their reader decides to purchase. So that means if they want to purchase on Amazon, the book's on Amazon and is beautifully represented Amazon. If they want to go to IndieBound, which is the website platform for independent bookstores to sell online, the book is there as well. On top of that, if I go into my local bookstore and I want to purchase a book that I've heard about, I can ask that bookseller, can you bring this book in for me? I'd love to purchase it. The book will be available for that bookseller to bring in. So that is how we approach making the book accessible. Now, do you need to go the hybrid route, or is traditional publishing better for you? The realities of that are also somewhat stark. However, it's all opportunity. So traditional publishing, we know that the publisher is taking all the risk in producing the book. They have a limited budget. They have to bet on sure things. So that's going to be the hardest way to get published. And it doesn't mean that your book is actually going to sell more units than you would sell if you were publishing independently. So it all depends on what you are looking for in terms of your publishing experience. Hybrid publishing is an excellent route or path if your book is written or is going to do very well if it's on a bookstore shelf. If you're a debut author, you're going to be hard pressed to get that spot on a bookstore shelf.
Yes.
Bookstores have limited space, and those booksellers have to be so careful with what they're bringing in. So that can be a challenge. Marketing to the trade, which means a publisher and their sales team selling into their accounts. That is, boy, talk about a dark art there. It is so hard to sell books into those markets because, again, all of the people, all the players that are in that space are looking to ensure book sales. So it can be so hard. So really working backwards from what your goals are as an author. If you're looking to reach your audience, have complete strangers review and read and review your book and touch their lives somehow, independent publishing is an incredible opportunity. Hybrid publishing, again, if you want a shot at getting on the bookstore shelves, it is an option for increasing your reach, but there are no guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
And then with traditional publishing, that is a long haul and a huge gamble, and one that can be so hard to achieve. So, but you can still reach your readers and produce a high quality book and achieve your goals through independent publishing and hybrid publishing.
Yep. And you have a really wonderful questionnaire that greets the reader, when the potential writer, when they go to your site, that zeroes in on this. What do you want to do? What's your top goal here? And it walks you through a series of questions. So I encourage everybody, at the end, I'll give you the link. But I really think about the whole idea of being a bit of an entrepreneur when you're an independent author. A little bit of that spirit of, I want the challenge because I'm going to make money. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to be read if I do the work to that entrepreneurial piece as well. And it's not for everybody, but it is for a lot of us. And it's particularly for those people, I think, who misunderstand that they, like with memoirists, you might be writing that memoir to support a business you have, to support an idea you have, to support a not-for-profit that you believe in. You might be writing it to support sobriety, but specifically a program that you went through, or you're to shine a light on something that you want other people to get involved with. And in that case, you do have a built-in base for your readership and also for the promotional support. So for some people who are entrepreneurial, who want to tap into an existing audience, this could be the perfect thing to do. I think people lose sight of that all the time, that you may in fact have on you a lot more entrepreneurial spirit than you realized. What do you think?
Oh, I could not agree with you more. The way I like to phrase this for authors that are, even in my first conversation with prospective clients, is that during the book production process, you're the author. And as soon as that book is published, you become a business owner, and the store, your business is open on day one. And then you have to figure out how to sell your book. So you really are, in some ways, launching a small business. Now, if your book is contributing to your thought leadership and you have a platform and your book is being used as an additional tool or piece of foundation in that endeavor, I think it is an excellent way, producing a book is an excellent way to add your voice to the conversation and to legitimize you in terms of your thought leadership. Books are excellent ways to help get you in the door for speaking engagements, panel participation. So many of the speakers bureaus and the organizations that are putting on these seminars and things, they want to know, do you have something you can offer our audience, our attendees? And maybe they're buying it from you direct while you're there, or maybe they're offering a purchase opportunity through the organization. Either way, it's an excellent way to continue the conversation with those you want to talk to, those you want to reach, whether you're driving people to your business or you're building your brand. Books are an excellent way to do that.
I think so.
And even if you're writing fiction, or whether your memoir is just about telling your truth, you do have to be ready to be entrepreneurial. And a good assisted self-publishing company will help you do that. They will lead you, they will encourage you, and they will give you tips and tricks and support for doing that. So you don't have to come in with a business degree and saying, yep, I'm gonna apply my MBA expertise to my book. It's not required. Even those who are feeling self-conscious about promoting themselves, a good assisted self-publishing firm will help you do that.
And that's exactly what you do, which I think it's a full service. I think it's perfectly right to say it's full service, because you've got editors, designers, and marketers. And for me, when I think about what I went through as a young author for my first book, I did not know anything about the business end of publishing, and I didn't understand the marketing aspects of it. But you offer these services, and you've been over them to a certain degree. But I just wonder if there's anything else you'd like to say about the support, and if I've left anything off of this bullet list. Editors, designers, marketers. I mean, you probably don't have a full-time therapist on board, but hey. whatever.
Well, I do just say our project editors, and those are the individuals who work from the very beginning of the project all the way through. I often refer to them as author whisperers, and they're there for those moments where an author is like, oh, I'm so nervous, or I'm really confused, I'm not sure, or maybe they're even struggling with how to manage their track changes in Word. We walk people through every aspect, and we do want to listen to everything that the authors experiencing and share them on. So I do think that some of our project editors can be somewhat like therapists a bit. But so our services are fully integrated. The team is run by that project editor who's bringing the designers and the marketing strategist to the table. And the marketing strategist is dedicated to understanding the author's goals and the landscape for that individual book and marrying the two together. So the marketing services are often phased approaches, starting very early on. And this is something you talked about earlier, that you didn't get that market research until after your book was published. Well, that's one of the first things we do. Once the book has gone through developmental editing, we really know what the book is about. We really have a good idea of the reader's experience. So that's when we do that market research. And then it's going to inform every aspect of what happens thereafter. So then the next phase of marketing is about what we do during the pre-publication stage. Are we getting some editorial reviews from industry professionals? Can we get praise quotes from some of those heavy hitters that we know will move the needle when a potential book buyer sees that somebody reviewed the book and thought highly of it? We want to get all of that done midstream of that book production process. And then once the book is published, it's about driving traffic and driving interest in the author and their book. So that's how we approach all of our services.
That's wonderful and so supportive. So here's a book that anyone who's been associated with the Memoir Project will know, because I interviewed Laura Davis on the Cordy podcast a couple of months ago. And Laura is a fascinating author and came to Girl Friday Productions after being the author of books that sold 1.8 million copies. This is probably the best example I can give you of somebody, and I'm not speaking for Laura here, I'm just taking the information that she put up on her website. And also I know from speaking to her, and if you want to go and listen to the interview on the Cordy podcast, we talk about Girl Friday Productions at the end of the interview. I ask her straight out, why, if you have 1.8 million copies of your books in print, did you go the independent route? And she said, control. And she had control. And I have to say, it's about as good an endorsement as you're going to get. Laura's an extraordinary person who brought us a huge wave of change having to do with sexual abuse 30 years ago when she wrote her first works, and more than 30 years ago at this point. So I like to just mention that to people, that there are big authors, there are new authors. They're authors of all genders. We shouldn't let the name Girl Friday Productions let us think that it's just for one gender. It's all genders that you produce, and we've got a really solid place to go get more information, which is girlfridayproductions.com. So I'm hoping that we can get some questions from people, because I know people have them. But Karen, I'm sure there's lots that I left out here in the questions. We have absolutely, and we've got a bunch of questions already here, so I'm going to go grab some of those. It is a fee structure, and I'm not going to ask you to go through that all, because people can get that information on the website. But is there anything else you'd like to get over? We've got questions just piling in here. So anything else you'd like to mention before we go to the questions, Karen?
Well, gosh, I think you did an excellent job of covering everything, Marion. I don't think there's anything that I can add. You did a beautiful job, so I'm excited to answer some questions.
Great. Well, the first one is from Portia, who does ask about the fees, and she just wonders about the breakdown of costs. So you've gone over a lot of different services, and is it a menu? In other words, instead of just giving, they can go on and learn more about, how much it can cost to do this. Why don't you just lay out how that works? Is it a menu from which we choose, or is it one prescribed method that every author walks through?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our business model is to provide comprehensive services. There are some other firms out there that might allow maybe more of an a la carte approach. We focus on comprehensive services, and the reason why we've decided to go that way with our business model is because we know that in the end, it serves our author well. They get the high quality book that they want at the end, supported by excellent marketing services. So that is our approach. Now, the pricing around that, we take it on an individual basis. We put together custom proposals for every project that comes to us, and we do that based on the needs of the author and the needs of their manuscript.
Great. And the model in terms of the return, let's just come to the fact that when the book comes out, the idea is for them to make their money back. Part of your model that fascinated me was the swiftness with which your intent is for them to make back their investment. So can you just go at that just a little bit, and then we can, because there's a whole lot of questions about the fee structure.
Yeah. We're really transparent with authors about the realities of independent publishing. And that means a lot of our clients, a lot of independent publishing clients, do not break even on their investment. It is a fact. And we want our authors to go into it with eyes wide open. We also want to make sure that they're building around what is really a business plan for their book, what their return on investment is. And that can be, are you building your a legitimate voice within on your platform, or building a platform? Are you participating as a thought leader in your area, or are you just trying to make your dream come true of having complete strangers read your book and be touched by your story? And we can make all of that happen for our authors. So we do have people that break even over the course of a few years, and we have some authors that get a return on their investment. If they become profitable, but it's never a source of meaningful revenue.
Okay. So we have a couple of questions about, do you have to apply? In other words, do you take anyone, or is it by invitation? How do you how discerning are you? We all know that the big four, the chances are as hard as getting into Harvard. So how about you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for our independent publishing services, we take clients who we can help them achieve their goals. If someone comes to us and says, I'm a debut novelist, or I've written my memoir, and my goal is New York Times bestseller, sell 10,000 units, and become and go on, be interviewed by Oprah.
Hmm.
I have to be the dream crusher in those moments, unfortunately. And
Hmm.
we would not be a good fit for an author who, where that is um, their goal. And that it's because it's incredibly hard to do.
Hmm.
However, we assess, can we help them achieve their goals? Are they interested in having a collaborative, comprehensive process? And if so, then we are the right fit for them. On our hybrid side of our business, so our hybrid program, which is how Laura's book was published, was through our hybrid program, Girl Friday Books. What we're really looking at is it's a submission-based program, and we are looking at whether or not we can do better for that author through marketing to the trade and giving them access to that broader set of channels than they can do for themselves through independent publishing. We are
Right.
huge fans of independent publishing, but there are some authors that really do need that additional reach, and they want access to that. And so our submission acceptance rate on the hybrid side of our business is about 50%. So we are being selective there because we want to do right by the author.
Great. So I'm not reading all the names because a lot of you are asking the same question, just in case you wanted to know, like, why didn't you read my name? Because there were 5 people that asked the question about the discernment. So Stephanie wants to know, what do you miss out on by avoiding traditional publishing? Money, marketing, what about legal rights?
Well, legal rights, I'm not sure what they mean, but in the United States, the author they own the copyright for their book. Now what an author is doing by signing a traditional publishing deal or even a hybrid publishing agreement is they are granting the rights to that firm to produce and publish their book. What the benefit of traditional publishing is that the publisher takes all the risk to produce the book. The author doesn't have to lay out costs for or invest in producing the book. The author is always, regardless of the publishing path, the author is always going to be responsible for marketing their book. The way I like to frame it is the publisher's goal to get the book published and get the book into stores, whether those be the brick and mortar stores or the online stores. It is the author's job to bring readers to the store.
Yes.
And we have marketing services, reader marketing services that will help authors do that. But across the board, authors have to invest in marketing. Now, whether or not you have to invest in producing your book is up to you. If you are firm about publishing timeline, reaching your readers, and having control over the content of your book and still producing a high quality book, then independent publishing or hybrid publishing those are likely your 2 paths that you'll be choosing from.
Mm-hmm. I think people don't understand that even though I published with the 4 big publishers, I still devoted 6 months to a year of my life to the promotion of that book. I wrote the letters to the 100 largest newspapers in the country and Canada when I wrote a book called The Roots of Desire, which is about the myth, meaning, and sexual power of red hair, right? It was lots of fun to write. But I wrote to the beauty editor,
Wow.
the science
Yeah.
editor, and the features editor, 3 separate letters to the top 100 newspapers in the country. So that's 300 letters. I had to get the name right, the title right. My publisher was not doing that because I went to a colloquium at the Authors Guild that taught me that you don't sell books by book reviews, you sell books by feature stories. I took it seriously. I got tons of feature stories, but that's what I did for a living for months after the publication of that, or in the run up to the publication of that book. People think that somehow you write a book with the big 4 and then you just end up on the Today Show. I've been on the Today Show 4 times. That's just true.
Yeah.
But it was because of
Yeah.
the issue I was talking about. And the rest
Yeah.
of it was up to me to get out there and do the actual work. So
Yes.
I think that's really important. So
I
what about
could not agree more.
Yeah, it's a very, very important distinction. So you've covered the difference between hybrid and large and the big four. What about platform? Does everybody need one before? Diane asks, does everyone need one before they get involved with you? Do we need to have our own platform?
It's a really good question, and it's sort of that, existential chicken and egg
Hmm.
question, right? We work with authors who do have platforms when they come to us, and we work with authors who don't have platforms. And we encourage them to take the time and invest in building their platform, whether it's already established and they're building it out and they're expanding it, and a book is going to be part of that, or whether it's non-existent and they really need help with creating it. And we've got resources and expertise that can help an author do that.
So what we mean by platform people is how are you going to reach readers? So I've got a website, I've got a podcast, I've got
Mhm.
some cred online. You've got to it's who you are in the world. That's what your
Yeah,
platform is.
yeah.
Let's see. Ted asked the last name of Laura. That was Laura Davis, who wrote that beautiful book, the bright. Let me get the title correct, right? The
Yeah.
Burning Light of Two Stars. Let me not make it up. It's a fabulous piece of work. Do you need a completed memoir? Asks Jean.
Well, we can assist authors who are in early stages. Maybe they have an outline, or maybe they've just got a few chapters. We do have a book coaching program. And this is similar to what you do, Marion, in terms of helping authors um, get to that substantive outline, make sure that they are writing for what they're hoping to achieve, the reader to experience, and then giving them a roadmap for the writing process. And then we can offer, in addition to that book coaching, we can do some standalone developmental editing if
Mhm.
an author really needs help with multiple rounds of dev editing.
Great. David asks, what genres do you publish? And you covered what percentage of applications do you accept, but he asks the essential question, are book proposals needed to apply?
Great question. So we publish all genres, and we're lucky that we have the expertise in-house as well as part of our resource pool to do that. And we recommend having a well thought out book proposal. We don't have the high bar of that you might have to have something that's, a masterpiece that you would submit for going through the agent and traditional publishing process. But we do want our authors to think about what are the differentiating factors in their book? What are they offering that's different? Who their market is, really having an idea of where your book fits. That's so helpful for us in terms of understanding how we can support the author and help them produce a product or produce a book that's going to achieve their goals. So it's not required, but we do recommend it.
Yeah, good. There's still a lot of questions here about the difference between hybrid and independent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you so beautifully said, all the risk is on the big four when they publish. But the hybrid and the indie is there's a fee involved in both. Can you
Yeah.
can you give a clearer definition than I've apparently been able to give on the
Yeah,
hybrid
sure.
versus independent,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah, so hybrid publishing, the author is investing in the production and reader marketing of the book. And the publisher, Girl Friday Books, is producing the book and representing that book to the trade and distributing it through the traditional book distribution channels. We're also representing the book for subrights opportunities, whether that's an audiobook, production subrights and publishing subrights opportunity, foreign rights, We do have other opportunities for our authors where it's film, television, drama, that sort of thing. So we are representing rights, and we're managing the distribution of that book for the life of the agreement. That publishing agreement is, as Girl Fighting Books as your publisher, we are, there's a royalty split. It's 70% for the author and 30% for Girl Friday Books. So we become your publisher. So it's a much higher royalty rate than you would get with traditional publishing by far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The algorithm
Yeah.
in traditional publishing is, you get 0.001% for the first 2,500 books. I mean, it's crazy. And if you've gotten an advance, which I've gotten for all 4 of my books, and everybody thinks, oh, that's so fabulous. Well, it is absolutely. But you got to make back the advance before you see a dime. So, I think everybody needs to understand that the Big Four is not the ticket to the Super Bowl every time. Wayne and a bunch of other people ask who your biggest competitors are. They just want to see, like somebody's mentioned She Writes Press, and there's a bunch of questions here about just sort of give us some context of who you're in the market with.
Yeah, She Writes Press is a name that we hear a lot. They're also a woman-owned business. We have a lot of respect for She Writes and the work that they do. But their business model is slightly different in that, yes, they are offering traditional publishing. They don't offer independent publishing services. So that's where we are different. She Writes also takes an approach that I think is, it's very price point friendly going in, but if you talk to anybody who's worked with She Writes, there are a lot of add-ons that go through the process, and there's a lot of do-it-yourself with She Writes Press. And for some people, that works really well. We are, by contrast, a comprehensive hybrid publishing program. So everything all up front in terms of the cost, and we're not going to add on midway through. So that's kind of how we differentiate ourselves on that side. Greenleaf is another publishing house, a hybrid publishing house that we hear about often. On the independent publishing side, there are a lot of firms out there that are offering book production services. And we differentiate ourselves there through our expertise, again, as through that comprehensive and coordinated approach to publishing and to our marketing efforts. So, and I just want to go back to one other differentiating aspect between hybrid publishing and independent publishing. So with independent publishing, the author is keeping 100% of their royalty in that scenario because they are their own publisher. And so they are the ones that are looking at sales reports and in looking at their distribution platform accounts and looking at how many units they sold last month, that sort of thing. So they are their own publisher. And so they keep all the revenue there too.
Yeah. That's a really wonderful distinction. So Jean asks, she self-published a book in 2007. Would it be possible to update a book?
That's a good question. It depends on how we can help you. I'd love to speak with you and see if it's something we can do for you. Sometimes when you pop the hood open, there are things that you want to change, and maybe you want to re-pour the book and do an interior design or put a new cover on it. Those are things that we can certainly help you with. If you're looking to just update, let's say a foreword or something like that, we might not be the right firm. Again, our business model is around comprehensive services.
So when I published the last 3 books, I'm thinking I had a lot of extra expenses. I made postcard, well, not huge, but I made the postcards. I made the material that I handed out
Mm-hmm.
when I went to book conferences. And Julia asks a great question. Does your company help publish cards, and maybe there's a companion book, or do you do just the book? Is there any option for the promotional material, or if there's a workbook that goes along with the book? How does that work?
We do all of it. If that's what our author needs, if the marketing strategist, they're talking to them and saying, yeah, that's going to move the needle and you should absolutely do postcards, and we can help with all of that. We make
Great.
sure that every single one of our clients who is investing in reader marketing services has the creative content in hand at their fingertips to add to their social media channels. We coach them on how to make adjustments every time they post something different. How can you say something a little bit different and not make it sound so self-promotional, and really talking about the content of the book and the topics within the book to, again, contribute to the conversation around the topics in the book and bring people around to being curious about the author and about the book. So we help with all of that.
That's great. So as we just have a few minutes left, oops, if I get my screen to stop, we just have a few minutes left. So when people go to, I want to give you the website here, everybody, girlfridayproductions.com. When people go to the website, what is it that you think they are going to find there? Well, I guess that's not really what I want to know. What I want to know is they fill out that questionnaire, and it then leads to a get in touch. And everybody's nervous about that next step, like getting you on the phone or somebody on the phone. So coach them just a little bit. Let's just coach people to how to get on there, fill out that questionnaire, and what you're clearly not going to get a hard upsell at the other end of this, but what are you going to get when you get somebody on the phone?
Yeah, well, you'll get me or my colleague, Christina. I talk to authors all day long, and I love it. I love reading manuscripts. Diamonds in the rough are my specialty. And I think when you go to our website, the first thing that you will see is that it's a fresh approach. We really are about the author and the author's goals. Our covers are beautiful. Every week we do design reviews where we're all looking at covers and really making sure that the author's going to be so happy with their cover. So we have beautiful covers. So you'll see that when you go to our website. Taking that quiz about what's the right publishing path for you is an excellent first step. And then filling out that Let's Talk form, those go to my inbox. And I would love to see them. I go through them every day, and we try to be very prompt with our replies. So I'd love to hear from you.
That's great. Well, speaking of prompt, I've got one more question here, and then we're going to wrap this up because we need to be out of here at 4:30 for everybody. We have from Ellen asks, what is a comparable timeline for the publication process between indie and traditional? I've heard that it can take a year or longer from acceptance to publication in traditional. So what about you?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it can take 18 months or more for I mean, it can be a very long time frame. And the reason why with traditional publishing there's a long time frame is because there is the publishing season that all publishers and book distributors have to adhere to, and that's the spring and the fall season. So that whole process can take months and years. For our hybrid program, we are also working within the framework of the publishing season, so spring and fall. However, our time to market is much faster. Generally speaking, and this applies to indie too, it takes us 6 to 9 months to produce a book. Some books might be longer depending on their content and the needs within, and some might be a little bit shorter, again, depending on the content and the needs. But with independent publishing, you're not relegated to those publishing seasons like you are with hybrid or traditional. So you're really looking at a strategic publishing decision around what's happening in the world and how the content of your book might be relevant to a particular time and place. We regularly recommend people avoid publishing during the holiday season. I know that's a surprise to a lot of people, but holiday is extremely crowded and it's very difficult to get any attention during that time. So unless there's a very compelling reason to publish between late November and end of December, we generally avoid that recommendation. So
Yeah,
6 to 9 months is a good rule of thumb. And then if you're publishing in the hybrid model, then there might be some added time to fit within that publishing season calendar.
Fabulous. Well, Karen, this has been a joy, and I'm sure you will hear from some of the people that I know. Some of these writers, they are some of the finest writers I've worked with on this call today, and I hope that they'll all say hello to you when they get in touch. I can't thank you enough. I want to be real clear about this. There's no endorsement here. I'm not taking a cut of any of their business. That's not how this works. I seek out people for you because I think you should meet these people. And that's the whole point of the Let Me Introduce You series. So Karen and I've never met, and it's not a business experience, but it is one of mutual regard. Absolutely. I think they make beautiful books and produce very happy authors. So Karen, thank you. It's just wonderful to get to know you. It's wonderful to hear about this terrific firm. And I look forward to you hearing from some of these authors.
Me too. It's been a pleasure, Marion, and I'm looking forward to talking to some of the attendees today and learning more about your book and learning about your publishing goals.
Wonderful. All right, everybody, come and join us next month. You just keep your eyes on that newsletter when you'll find out who I'll be talking to. And write well, stay safe, and stay in touch. Bye-bye. Thanks so much. Take care.